90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box. My name is Rob Leonard, and joining me is my brother. I have to admit to it. Tim Leonard, award-winning sports writer.
Wow.
He has
nice,
to take.
Brother?
Yeah. I'm peeved at you, brother. I'm trying to call you. You're taking a shower.
You shouldn't
5 minutes before air.
You shouldn't bring the family business on the air, brother.
I don't care, brother. I'm angry with you today. So I didn't get the notes.
You shouldn't let that leak into the show, brother.
I don't care. You shouldn't be taking a shower 5 minutes before air.
Wow.
First of all, no one's smelling you because you're at home, just like I am.
True. Yeah.
Anyway, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great with an intro like that. I'm great.
Well, it better be. You almost ruined my day. You almost ruined my day, bro.
Clean, refreshed, and smell good.
Yeah, but you don't need to be. No one's gonna smell you,
brother. Remember sports? Let's go to sports.
Yeah, I'd rather complain about life.
I know.
Anyway, brother, where do you want to start? The NBA draft. Why are they doing the NBA draft during the Olympics?
Well, that's I was going to say let's start with that, brother. But there was a shocking result at the Olympics that we need to deal with first, and that being our U.S. women's soccer team, which everybody was pretty much of the same opinion that we were going to win the gold, lost to Canada very early this morning between the hours of 4 and 6 a.m., and they're out. They lost to Canada for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
And that means that we, as far as I know, that means we are in the bronze medal game. And this comes a year or so after winning the Women's World Cup and having parades and celebrating and I'll tell you what, I saw this coming. I didn't necessarily see it coming against Canada though. I said it last week on this very program that the U.S. looked slow. Their attack was very disjointed. They didn't look at all like the same team that won the World Cup, even though it was essentially all the same players.
Right.
We have, and by we I mean the United States, because I can say that because I'm a proud American, but we have the greatest attacking force in the world in women's soccer, and for whatever reason we decided to never use it in this tournament, and I got to put the blame for that on the coach, who I think should be fired, because all we did was sit back and just not do anything. And it showed itself in the opening match. Was a 3-0 loss to Sweden, which was embarrassing. And it snapped what was then a 44-game unbeaten streak. And we won out of 4 games. We won 1 game in this Olympics. No, I should say 2 games in the Olympics, because one of them was on penalty kicks, and we beat Netherlands in the previous round. So to lose to Canada in the semifinals, it's just disgraceful. And to not score. We're the United States of America. We score goals in women's soccer. And this was another game where we could not generate a single goal. And Canada is a team that we typically, we abuse, and they have been. They have been the chew toy for the United States women's team for a couple of decades now.
Right.
We don't lose to Canada in soccer. Maybe we lose to them in hockey, but we don't lose to them in soccer. And this result, and Canada got its goal on a penalty kick in the 75th minute. But it's absurd. There's no. After the U.S. women beat the Netherlands in penalty kicks, which was disturbing enough. Then I saw Canada in the semifinals, and I was kind of relieved, because I was like, all right, good. This will give the U.S. women a game to kind of get things back, get it back on track, and whoever we play in the final, we'll be ready. But then part of me said, you know what, Canada they're not a bad team. They're not a really good team, but they're not a bad team. And maybe then I was like, come on, it's Canada. We always beat them. It shouldn't be a problem. And it was a problem. I mean, I actually watched the first half of this match, which was on at 4 a.m. And was not happy with what I saw. Again, the attack, there was nothing there. There was nothing dangerous offensively. There was no shots on goal that I saw in the first half, and also in the first half, we lost our starting goalie, Alyssa Naylor, who went up for a cross and landed strangely on her leg. I'm not even sure what happened because it looked like she hyperextended her knee, but it could have been an ACL. So we'll have to find out what the diagnosis is on that to find out. It's not like she has a next game in the Olympics to play, although I guess the bronze medal match she could play in that. But it seems like they took her off a couple minutes later. She tried to stay in the game, and then she took a goal kick and almost crumbled to the turf after she kicked the ball. She was in so much pain. But just a really genuinely disappointing result at the Olympics for a team that has been so dominant on the world stage for really for a very long time. And then you're going to see the stories. Is this the turning point for the U.S. women's team? And I don't think it is necessarily, but what this does signal is kind of a changing of the guard, because this is going to mark a change in the roster, and Megan Rapinoe and Carly Lloyd, maybe Alex Morgan, some of the older players on the team. This is going to be the signal that, hey, it's time to refresh, and it's time to get some younger legs, and it's time to get some faster legs, and it's time to get some younger players in and refresh the program, and let these younger players take that mantle, as they say, and go from there, because this result it's just unacceptable. This entire Olympics performance really has been.
We do hope they take the bronze, but there are some anti-Americans out there, brother, who are going to cheer this because of the political things that the women's national team did, and the anti-Americans are going to say, "Oh, they deserved it. They were concentrating too much on politics."
Yeah, well, that's the Trump supporters. Me, brother. I'm a real patriot. I root for Americans to do well in everything. And if you're not rooting for America to do well and to win gold medals and to win medals, period, but to win gold medals, then I'm sorry, you're not a patriot. If you're rooting for your country to lose, then how is that patriotic?
I agree.
To those people, smooch my booty, as they say.
Well, I don't know about that, brother. That's such a disgusting thing.
Thank you, brother.
So, anyway, let's talk about the NBA draft, brother, because why would you have it during the Olympics? I didn't even know they were having it, and I guess this is when they would normally have it otherwise, but
right.
But they could have waited a week or two.
Well, it's we're not that far away from NBA training camp, brother. So I know the NBA season just ended, and then obviously it ended later than it normally would, but. We're into August now, brother. We're into your birth month. So
that's right.
Which a lot of women I know now they celebrate the birth month. It's not even a birthday anymore. Not even a birth week. It's birth month. My friend Marianne Mustachio started that, and apparently it's caught on.
Well,
so if you just want to go out and just go celebrate, be my guest. It's your month. But anyway, yeah, NBA draft. This was a strange draft for me, because I looked at it as, were there a lot of good players in this draft? Yes, there were. But were there superstars in this draft? Maybe one. Cade Cunningham, yes, he's a superstar. He is going to be a very good player, and he was taken first overall by the Detroit Pistons. So Cade Cunningham, yes, he undoubted 6'8" point guard, brother. So it's hard to go wrong with a 6'8" point guard who is good enough to be taken number one overall. I think people, the first thing people think of when you say 6'8" point guard is Magic Johnson, and that's not a bad comparison. So
okay.
when you look at him, yes, he has the capability of being a superstar. But when you're looking at other players in this draft, I don't know what to say and who is going to be the guy that jumps out. Jalen Green, the shooting guard, he played in the G League last season, brother. And a lot of people are happy that he was the number 2 pick overall because he was an example of a player who didn't go to college and didn't, and took the money, so to speak. Players don't make a lot of money in the G League, but
they make any money in the G League.
Well, no, they make some money. I think they make about $75,000.
Really, that much?
Well, I want to say yes. I need to do a little more research on it because it could be 50, it could be 40. But you know what? He was making money, so whatever it was, good for him. But now if he wanted to go, that's a difference a year makes. A year ago he would not have been entitled to make money off his name, image, and what licensing, whatever it is, the NIL thing, which he probably could have made a lot more money than that by going to school for a year. But now we're in a situation where all of that has changed. But this kid took the money. I'm pretty sure probably people in the NBA were probably happy about it because it justifies the G League and it gives it credibility. When you have the number 2 overall pick in the draft coming from your developmental league, that means something is going well in the developmental league.
I know you're the wrong person to ask, but wouldn't the developmental league already have established professionalism? So how can you draft someone in the G League? Because obviously people who are in their 30s play in the G League too. It's not just for,
it's for younger players, but yeah, obviously you have to fill out a roster. It's like the minor leagues in baseball.
Right. That's what exactly.
But a player who signs with the G League is still a free agent. So it's not like any team has the rights to that player until that player is drafted. And if an 18-year-old comes out and his high school class can't go into the NBA draft until 1 year into college. So that's the loophole that kind of developed, and the league has done nothing about closing it because, like I said, I don't think the league is upset about it. So if a player wants to go for some money and do whatever, help his family or buy himself a not so expensive car or a bunch of jewelry, whatever they're doing with the money is up to them, obviously. But it gave players who didn't necessarily want to go to college for a year and have to deal with staying eligible and have to deal with living. Well, I guess if you go to the G League, you're going to be living somewhere else anyway. But just for whatever reason, didn't want to do school. And didn't want to be in an academic environment. They just wanted to work on their game and work on improving their game.
Couldn't he go to a place that doesn't really care about academics, UNLV or pick
or Duke
or whatever, wherever place.
They could, but that's what I'm saying is when you make that commitment to go to a college, you have to go to class. There is a bare minimum that you do have to uphold.
That's not too hard,
to
brother.
Stay eligible.
Come on.
It's not, but some players at that stage would rather just entirely focus on their game. And the thought is, well, I'm going to go play against players who are older than I am, who in a lot of cases are bigger than I am and who are better than I am, and I'm going to improve my game and show the people in the league that, hey, I can play against these guys. And it's all about basketball. And in some ways you kind of learn what the league is. You're traveling, you're playing against better competition and you're working to stand out among that competition.
Well, you're supporting these guys. This sounds like a weird scam,
Well, it's not a weird scam. It's just a kind of a progression of
but I guess what happens if Jalen Green was. Well, I was saying Jalen Rose in my head.
No.
Jalen Green. Let's say it's 5 years from now, and he'd already been drafted, but was a failure at the draft. After the draft, I should say, and then joins the D League, or joins the European League or something.
Right. What about it?
Yeah. Well, how you don't draft them then? I guess once you get drafted,
that's it. You have one chance of getting drafted, brother. That's it.
Okay.
So, let's put it this way. If he would have gone to the G League and averaged, 4 points a game, well, then either he stays in the G League or, he goes to Europe. But, it's one or the other. I mean, if he would have been a failure in the G League, then he wouldn't have been drafted. So, that again, it's a way to show NBA people that, yes, I am talented. I have skills. I can play the game. I can play the game well against, older, stronger competition. The one thing about the G League that I like, I mean, all of these guys are desperate to get to the NBA.
Of course they are.
So, I mean, because you're talking about the difference, you're talking about increasing your take home pay by probably at least 10 times. You're going from 40 or 50,000 to 600,000. So every guy in that league would love to be in the NBA for one season.
For 10 games, what are you talking about?
Well, whatever it is, but they would love it because you're making money now. You're making real money, and obviously for guys, for a guy on the fringe to make the NBA for 1 year, that becomes life-changing money.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you won the lottery or something, but if for somebody who's making 40 or 50 grand playing basketball, if you all of a sudden drop 600 grand on them, thank you. I mean, that's life-changing money. That makes your life easy for the, I'm not going to say the rest of your life, but for several years anyway.
Yeah,
anyway,
you stay a few years, you make $10 million.
Well, yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. Look at somebody like Austin Rivers. I mean, the Knicks signed him last year to a 3-year, $10 million deal. And then wound up trading him not long after. Well, hey, that's $10 million Austin Rivers never would have seen.
That's true.
So, he might not be the best example because his dad is Doc Rivers, and it's not like there's any shortage of money in the family, but. I mean, he's a good example of somebody who's kind of on the fringe, and you can make a few bucks in the NBA. And $10 million for a guy on the fringe, that certainly is life-changing money.
I would take it.
Yes, I would too, brother. Anyway, the Knicks, I am so disappointed with the Knicks draft because it really came off as if they had no clue of what they were doing. And I had high hopes. They had the number 19 and the number 21 picks. One of those first rounders came from Dallas in the Porzingis trade. So they were finally seeing some benefit from that. The Knicks obviously were not in the lottery because they had such a good season. So that was encouraging, but the idea, I think, coming into the draft was let's package these two picks and let's move up and let's get into the lottery and then let's go from there. And the Knicks weren't able to move up. Nobody would agree to a deal with them. So apparently, and nobody said anything. Leon Rose, the Knicks president, who was hired with such fanfare, has not talked to the media in a year. So we don't know from Leon Rose what his thought process was because he won't talk to the media. Why, I really have no idea. And it's pretty stupid. But the Knicks wind up trading the number 19 pick to the Charlotte Hornets, and they wind up getting what is a very heavily protected 2022 first round pick. So I get it. If there's somebody there that you don't necessarily want to pick, all right, fine. You kind of kick the can down the road. Next year we'll have two number ones again. But that's what you do. And like I said, I get it, but I don't necessarily agree with it because there were guys there. Kai Jones was the pick at number 19. They traded him to Charlotte. He's a power forward out of Texas. Nice player. I just don't know how many difference makers were there. But and then at 21, the pick was a kid by the name of Keon Johnson out of Tennessee, somebody who seems made for Tom Thibodeau. 6'5" shooting guard who's got a vertical leap of somewhere over 40 inches. I mean, at one point I heard 48, which is ridiculous, but I also heard 41. So he's somewhere, let's put it this way, this kid can jump 3.5 feet minimum. All right? So why wouldn't you want somebody like that on defense? You know, yes, is he a little skinny? Sure he is. But, you know, you were talking about a 20-year-old. He's going to put weight on. You know, get him in the weight room, get him in there. And all the Knicks got for that was a second rounder down the road. And they switched picks. So instead of 21, they picked at 25. So I don't. The only thing that I can figure is that the Knicks were trying to amass some draft picks that they can throw at the Portland Trailblazers if Portland decides, well, you know what, it's not working out with Damian Lillard, and we're going to trade him. And you know what are we getting offered? And the Knicks could say, hey, we got a couple of first rounders for next year. We got this second rounder you can have, and we're just going to throw a bunch of picks at you and a couple of players, and we're going to, you know, like, let's see what we can do and get Damian Lillard in here. That's the only thing I can come up with. Because the guy who the Knicks picked at 25, which is where they wound up, was Quentin Grimes out of Houston, who's not a bad player, nice player, but a lot of draft experts had this kid in the second round somewhere. So the fact that the Knicks are picking him at 25 in the first round was a little bit of a surprise. You know, there certainly were some players that maybe, you know, depending on need. I mean, I still don't know why point guard wasn't a need or a focus. You know, the Knicks wound up taking 2 point guards in the second round, but chances are you're not going to find your starting point guard in the second round. You know, one of them was a draft and stash, a kid from Lithuania named Rokas Jakubaitis, and that, he was picked at 34. He's out of Lithuania, and the other one was Miles McBride out of West Virginia, was picked at 36. Now McBride was somebody who Tom Thibodeau liked a lot in you know, pre-draft workouts and whatnot. So you pretty much knew the Knicks were going to figure out a way to take him. But I'm kind of puzzled as to what they were doing, because with Grimes is a rotation player. And again, granted, at 25, you're probably not going to find a starter, but it just seemed to me like the Knicks didn't try hard enough, and again, maybe pivoted and are looking to maybe trying to get somebody. And you know, I mean, the other thing that you have to remember, and I don't know that this is actually going to make any difference, but Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard, cousin Kawhi, both opted out of their contracts, so they're both free agents now.
Well, maybe that's why.
I don't see the Knicks. First of all, I see Chris Paul re-signing with Phoenix. I think that's just a procedural move, and he's going to look to just make himself a little more money. Even though he's turned down a $44 million contract. I don't know where the more money's coming from. I think
cousin Kawhi maybe comes to the Knicks.
Well, cousin Kawhi apparently is going to miss the coming season, brother. He's got some knee issues.
Oh, that's not good.
So it's going to be like a Kevin Durant scenario where, you know, you're signing him for 4 years so he can play 3, and that's assuming he gets healthy. But
why would you drop out of your contract if your knee is hurting, and if you would stay with
somebody will sign after what happened with Durant, somebody will sign him for the, you know, we'll pay you for 4 and you play 3, because he's that good of a player, first of all, and secondly, it depends on whether he wants to leave the Clippers. And given how hard he worked to get to Los Angeles last year, and Los Angeles is basically where he's from. He's from the San Diego area, so you know that's as close as he's going to get to home. You know, that again, it's seen as a contract move where, you know, all right, you opt out of your last year, we'll give you the super max, and you'll get like 160 million plus or whatever the number is for 4 years or maybe even 5 years, depending on what the deal is. And then, you know, now he's making 40 plus million a year for the next 5 years, as opposed to making it for 1 year and then being a free agent after this season.
Wow.
So that's where we are. I think Damian Lillard is probably the most likely scenario, but again, the Knicks have to figure out a way to get that trade done. Now, that being said, the Los Angeles Lakers basically gave up nothing to acquire Russell Westbrook on draft night. I mean, they gave up fringe pieces and their number one pick, which was number 22 overall. So the Washington Wizards basically got nothing for Russell Westbrook. And it really was disgusting because Westbrook said he wanted to go to LA and they worked out the deal, but I saw no benefit whatsoever for the Wizards. I don't even understand what they're doing. They got worse on draft night. So so that's where we are. And just real quick, as far as the rest of the draft goes, the Nets I actually thought had a good draft, considering that they picked at number 27 and they had another pick at 29. They made a deal. They traded they traded a shooting guard, Landry Shamet, who's like their backup 3-point guy. They traded him for a backup point guard and a 29th pick. So the Nets got a kid by the name of Cameron Thomas out of LSU, who like is a Vinnie Johnson kind of microwave, scorer. He can come off the bench for the Nets and light it up. The problem is that the kid apparently not only doesn't play defense, but doesn't like to play defense. Now, I don't know how that's going to fly when you have James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant on your first team and are looking at you and saying, young man, we play defense. You better start playing defense. So I think he's going to feel the heat from those guys. And with any luck, at least start to care about defense. We'll see what happens there. But Thomas, a lot of people thought of him as a lottery talent, but again, head case. So, the Nets wound up with 5 picks in this draft, which there's no way that they're going to carry 5 rookies into the season. But given that their contract situation is what it is with their big 3 and how much cap space they take up, rookie deals are the way around that, because that's a way to put cheap talent around your very expensive players. In fact, that's what the Lakers have to do now with the addition of Westbrook, because with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, they're in a similar, very restricted cap situation.
Right.
But the Nets drafted a kid from North Carolina, center, 6'11", 265, Day'Ron Sharpe. They also took a second rounder, a power forward out of Florida State, Raekwon Gray, who's 6'8", 260. So they needed some size, and they got it with those 2 guys. So, we'll see what happens. But we also have to see what happens with some of their free agents. Are they going, are they going to re-sign some of their free agents? Blake Griffin obviously being one of them. But we'll see what happens. But I thought the Nets they got some intriguing talent and some guys that could and should stick around and give them some depth on the bench. And their big hope next season is just that their big 3 stays healthy.
Well, it'd be nice to see him play more than 14 games.
Very true, brother. Very true.
Anyway, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College, from the press box on your radio or streaming at nccradio.org or the iHeartRadio app or tunein.com or odyssey.com. The show becomes a podcast later on. It's available on Spotify, Spreaker, Odyssey, and all the rest. Anywhere you can find podcasts. Anyway, let's talk about a Major League trade, brother. Trading deadline. Cubs were busy. The Mets got a Cub. The Yankees got a Cub.
It was like Oprah, brother. You get a Cub. You get a Cub. You get a Cub.
Why were the Cubs in the trading mode, man?
Because that was, they had players. They had a lot of players who were, who are free agents after the season, and they just decided to blow it up. And I don't necessarily disagree with them, because they wound up not long before the deadline with several with a 10 or 11 game losing streak, and that pretty much took them out of contention. So what are you going to do? I mean, that's there's no point. There's no real point in going for it.
I think in this situation, if you were still in it, and these players they got rid of are pretty good, you would keep them and try to maybe.
No, it wasn't. Here's the deal, brother. The Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, they're 63-43. They're 20 games over 500. The Cubs right now, we're talking today, so it's a couple days after the deadline, but the Cubs are 51-56. So the Cubs are 12 and a half games behind the Brewers. They're not catching.
No, not this time.
And the Brewers this season have been getting phenomenal pitching. So the Cubs pretty much that losing streak pretty much showed who the Cubs were. And it wasn't going to happen for them. And the problem is in the National League, the wild card right now is going to be the two teams from the National League West. So who are playing much better than anybody. So when you're looking at the situation like that, it's all right. Well, are we going to be a buyer and our best chance is to make a wild card game? So we're playing one game for the rest of our season, or are we going to see what we can get prospect wise and try to rebuild this thing? Now, that being said, I thought the trades that were made this season were for much less value than what's been made in the past. I mean, when you look at what the Yankees got for Aroldis Chapman and Andrew Miller a few years ago, and they brought in Gleyber Torres, and they brought in Clint Frazier and guys like that. These were top prospects, and the only real top prospects that got traded went to the Washington Nationals from the Dodgers because the Nationals sent Max Scherzer and Trey Turner to it. I mean, Scherzer is still a top pitcher in the game, and Trey Turner is clearly one of the 20 best players in baseball. So they wound up getting Keibert Ruiz, who was a catcher, and Josiah Gray, who was a right-handed pitcher, who were the Dodgers' number 1 and 2 prospects. But other than that, the best rated prospect to go anywhere in a trade was Pete Crow Armstrong, who went from the Mets to the Cubs in the deal for Javier Baez. And he was like I say, he was the 5th best prospect. There was a lot of guys who were like, fringy top 10 picks who were like maybe 9 or 10 or 12 in that range. But as far as I know, and as far as I can recall, they were the only top 5 prospects were those 3 players. So and the Cubs only got one of them because the Nationals got the 2 best prospects that were dealt during this trade deadline. So I know the Cubs wanted to see what they can get and get some value for the player. I mean, Chris Bryant went to the Giants. Craig Kimbrell went across town. He went from the Cubs to the White Sox. Baez went to the Mets, and Anthony Rizzo came to the Yankees. But I'm not sure how many impact bats or impact players the Cubs wound up with as a result of all of these trades.
Well, let's talk about who the Mets and the Yankees got. Javier Baez.
Real good player.
Worth it or not for the Mets?
Real good player. I mean, let's put it this way. Our man Darren DeVivo, brother. We've been having a bit of a debate on his Facebook page. Javier Baez is a few things. Number one, he is a very good run producer. He is a proven run producer. In 2018, Javier Baez batted .290 with 34 home runs and 111 RBIs, and was one of the contenders for the Most Valuable Player award. And now you have Met fans claiming that Javier Baez is a bum because his batting average is like .245. But what they don't see, and what I do see because he was on my fantasy team, is that Javier Baez in the last month has raised his average 25 points. And he's also a career 265 or so hitter. So this is a guy who, if past performance is any indicator, and it usually is, he is due for a big second half hitting wise. Now he already has 23 home runs, which is as many as Pete Alonso has. So you can't say the guy's a bum. He's got 60-something RBIs. He's a very good player, and when he does get on base, he's got speed, so he can actually make things happen on the bases. And he's a Gold Glove level defender. Right. So your man Francisco Lindor is out probably at least for a month. If not maybe even a little longer with the oblique injury, because those things never heal quickly. And what's probably going to happen, and Baez is very good friends with Lindor. He even said that Lindor was the only shortstop that he would move off of shortstop for. So when Lindor is ready to come back, what the Mets likely will do is move Baez to second base, and I don't know what they're going to do with Jeff McNeil. Either put him at third, put him in the outfield. They're just going to rotate a lot of players around, and guys will get days off, and they'll be fresh for the stretch run. And in theory, the Mets will wind up a better team because of this, because they'll have rested players down the stretch as opposed to guys, feeling the dog days of summer, as they say.
Right.
So the theory is that this should help the Mets. Whether it does or not obviously remains to be seen, because the Mets are still struggling, and the Mets really could have used another pitcher. That to me was the mistake of the trade deadline, was the Mets did not acquire the pitching that they needed. And right now, it's hard to say what's going on with the Mets rotation, because Jacob deGrom just got pushed back another couple of weeks.
I'm worried about him, Tim. I think,
you and me both, brother. You and me both. I mean,
it's too quiet. It's too quiet. I think he throws too hard. I think he probably has better pitches that he could use instead of throwing as hard as he does.
Well, that's throwing hard is part of his game, and as I've said in the past, brother, he has what they call easy gas.
He doesn't have a David Wells arm, like a rubber arm or anything.
Well, very, very few do, but
I bet you David Wells can still pitch.
But DeGrom, he probably could. But DeGrom has, he's still got some inflammation in his right forearm, and whenever you're talking about a forearm, that's always a dangerous thing, because a lot of times forearm tightness is a precursor to Tommy John surgery. Obviously with the Mets, that would be devastating if Jacob deGrom needed Tommy John surgery. But the Mets, they brought in Trevor Williams with Baez. I don't know what how much Trevor Williams is going to give him. Maybe he helps them down the stretch. At least he's a guy who's going to take the ball every fifth day. But was he the answer? No, I can't say he was, because he wasn't. Carlos fine. Carrasco is supposed to be back and supposed to be ready to pitch. So there are some arms there, but are they difference making arms? And that I don't know, because for right now it doesn't seem like that's the case. And again, another guy they brought in, Rich Hill, who has been pitching pretty well, but is 41 years old. And ever since baseball took the sticky stuff, as we're calling it, away from the pitchers, Rich Hill has struggled and has looked more like a 41-year-old. Now,
well, so is Garrett Cole too, brother.
Well, no, not recently, brother. Not recently, except his last one. But yes. But what has been really bad for the Mets is, ever since the All-Star game, Taijuan Walker has been a disaster. There's no two ways around it. He has just been bad. He's gotten bombed in most of his last couple of games. The worst one was against Pittsburgh. We talked about it last week when they threw the ball away and they did that whole thing. But Taijuan Walker in his last three starts he hasn't allowed fewer than 5 runs in any of them.
Wow.
So, it's five innings, 5 runs against Atlanta was a loss. 4 innings, 6 runs against Toronto was a loss. And 1/3 of an inning and 6 runs, 5 earned against Pittsburgh. But that was a game the Mets came back to win. So we're talking 9 1/3 innings and 16 earned runs.
Ooh,
that's painful. That'll raise the old ERA, brother.
Now, of course, brother, just to let you know, if you look at the NL East, the Mets are in first place. They basically have the same record as the Yankees, and the Yankees are in third. So that just shows that there's no justice in baseball, brother, because the Yankees actually do have a better record than the Mets at this point. Now they do? Okay, because
yes, they do.
I had looked at for a couple of days.
The Yankees have won 15. They're 15-7 in their last 22 games. So the Yankees finally are putting together a good stretch of baseball. They are now 56-48 and in third place in the American League East. The Mets are 55-49. So the Mets, if the Mets and the Yankees were in the same division, the Mets would be a game behind the Yankees. But the Mets are in first place in the National League East by 3.5 games, because nobody else in their division is over 500. And it's been like that pretty much all season. So it's like I said, there's no justice. It's just it's one of those it is what it is things, and that's what makes baseball such a wonderfully weird game. I mean, all I can say right now is I'm encouraged about the Yankees because they're playing well. They're doing things that they should be doing and winning games, and it's encouraging that at the very least they will be a wild card team, or they will at least compete to be a wild card team, because they're going to have to get past the Oakland Athletics for the wild card at this point. So right now, Tampa Bay is in first place in the American League East. I have no idea how Tampa Bay continues to do it. Good for them, because they swept the Boston Red Sox this weekend and knocked the Red Sox out of first place. Of course, my Mook buddy Croce is been screaming all season, first place Red Sox. Well, I you ask him what's going on. Hey, Croce, what about first place Red Sox? And he'll just say something else stupid. But
it's his job, brother.
Well, yeah, but the Yankees are gaining ground. Are they going to be able to make up 7 games with Tampa Bay? That remains to be seen. And my typical measuring stick here, brother, is you got to get to 10 games over 500 before you can start to talk. And the Yankees still aren't 10 games over 500. They're 8 games over 500.
Right.
They have a series with the Orioles starting up tonight at Yankee Stadium. We talked about it last week. We're in a point of the schedule where it's an easy part. It's an easy part. It's a soft part of the schedule. 3 against the Orioles, 4 against Seattle, which actually Seattle's playing pretty well lately, and then 3 against Kansas City, which is another bad team. So that's a 10-game stretch where 8-2 really shouldn't be a lot to ask for. At minimum 7-3, but you need to come out of that with that kind of record, something in the area of 7-2 or 7-3, 8-2, because right now the Yankees need to make up ground, and then after that they play the Chicago White Sox, which obviously that's a very good team, and that's a team that's dominating the AL Central, and then it's back with the Red Sox, and then the Twins and the A's, and then those Oakland Athletics I was just talking about. So that it goes from easy to tough in a hurry. But those 3 games with the Red Sox, it's actually a day-night doubleheader on August 17th, and then another game on August 18th. They obviously, it's kind of hysterical to say they need to sweep, but we'll see where it is when they get to those games. A sweep might be almost necessary to really get the Yankees where they need to be. So, we'll see where it goes. But again, I'm encouraged. I like what the Yankees did at the deadline. I'm still not a fan of Joey Gallo and what they did with that, but bringing in Anthony Rizzo as well, which was a shock move. I don't know what that meant in terms of what Luke Voigt's future is with the Yankees, both this season and for going forward after 2021, because Voigt is still hurt, and I don't know what where he goes when he comes back. But the Yankees were down in Miami this weekend. They swept the Marlins. A lot of low scoring games, which was good for the pitching staff, but not so good for the offense because, but that being said, the Marlins, the one good thing that they do is starting pitching, and they showed that this weekend. the weekend there was some bad news over the weekend, brother, because Marlins manager and Yankee legend Don Mattingly tested positive for the coronavirus. Thank you, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, for being a clown and allowing the virus to spread all over your state. You're a moron. But Anthony Rizzo, his first game with the Yankee fans are gonna roar for Anthony Rizzo tonight, brother. First game with the Yankees, he hit a bomb, 450 some feet. It was ridiculous. I mean, just you talk about launch angle. This ball had all kinds of launch angle. He just crushed this thing. Rizzo basically did nothing wrong in his first 3 games with the Yankees, and he is the reason that I think the Yankees are one of the winners at the trade deadline because of what he has brought. You already can see an energy. You can see the leadership that he brings. He brings a certain it's both energy, and the lineup seems energized now with the left-handed hitters in there, but he also brings a certain sense of calm and leadership that might have been a little bit lacking on this team. You know, this is a guy who's been there before and done that. And apparently is a Yankee fan from way back in the day, because even though he was born and raised in Florida, he's got relatives in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. So that's up in the Bergen County area, brother. So he would come to Yankee games during his youth, when he was a Ute, brother.
A Ute,
exactly.
Anyway, bad news for Met fans who thought Kumar Rocker might be a future helping for the Mets, or helper, I should say.
Yes. Well, a future power arm.
Yeah, and Mets were going to give him $6 million. And then they did some tests on him, and they said, "Well, we're really not sure of your arm now." And they pulled back their offer. They offered half, and Kumar said, "What are you kidding? My arm is fantastic." But they didn't say what was wrong, and I guess legally they can't. Though I'm sure someone's going to leak it to the papers.
Well, I mean, this was a medical, and you know, Kumar Rocker. A lot of pitchers typically will come in, or a lot of pitchers will anyway, who will come in for medicals before the draft, and you know, they get MRIs taken, and this way the baseball people and the doctors and everybody can take a look and see, all right, how much wear and tear does this guy have on his arm? And it's sadly, it's a way that, you know, to take money away from pitchers sometimes, because, you know, that's what happens when, you know, they saw something they didn't like. I don't know what it was, whether it was an elbow, whether it was a shoulder, whatever it was. The Mets were like, yeah, we don't really like this. And the Mets probably looked at the medicals and said, this guy's got whatever surgery in his future. And I have to assume it was they probably thought it was something in like a Tommy John kind of a thing, because there was probably some fraying or whatever.
Well, we got to be careful with the speculation.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you know, that's, you know,
but something said to the Mets, we're going to cut the thing, and if not, we'll just let you go. Yeah,
something told the Mets to be cautious, and you know, Kumar Rocker's agent is Scott Boras, so immediately, you know, take that for what it's worth. But Boras is saying that the MRIs that Rocker had on his shoulder and his elbow after the conclusion of the most recent college season, and they compared those with 2018 MRIs, Scott Boras says that medical experts found no significant change. And Boras again is saying that Rocker, and this is a quote, requires no medical attention and will continue to pitch in the regular course as he prepares to begin his professional career. Now, the word that is being reported is that Rocker will not go back to Vanderbilt, and I don't know who he's going to sign with or who he's going to pitch for, but apparently he's going to pitch for a year somewhere. You know, I don't know if he would go to Japan for a year or Korea maybe, but he will pitch somewhere, but not in college, and will make himself available for the draft again next season. And we'll see where it goes.
Why wouldn't you? Can you not go back to college, or as soon as you sign with Boras, it's over?
Well, I mean, I guess he could have gone back to college, but I don't know about, I don't know if he and Boris had a formal arrangement. A lot of times the way they get around the NCAA rules is they just, like Boris will be his consultant.
Right.
He's not officially hired because he hasn't been paid. But that's what we're looking at right now. But like you said, the Mets had made Rocker a $6 million bonus offer, which was significantly above the slot value. I mean, the Mets were thrilled when Rocker fell to them at number 10. I mean,
Sure.
nobody expected him to be there, and he was regarded as a horse, like an ace type of pitcher. So the Mets were thrilled when he wound up dropping to them. But then it pretty quickly got acrimonious when the Mets said that, hey, we don't like some of these medicals and we want to cut the bonus. As long as the rule goes that as long as the Mets make an offer of 40% of slot, that that they will get, they're going to wind up getting the 11th pick in the draft next season, because you get the next pick down if you fail to sign your draft pick from the previous year.
Right.
Now, that being said, they didn't even have to make the offer to Rocker because he didn't come in for those physicals that I was talking about before. And if a pitcher doesn't come in for those physicals, then the offer isn't required. So whether or not the Mets actually made the formal offer is unknown, but they didn't have to. So, but now what do the Mets wind up with in this draft? I mean, it kind of, I don't want to put the whole draft on one player, but when you draft a player as promising and as well known as Kumar Rocker has been, and then he doesn't sign with you, well, it's kind of a disappointing draft. Rocker is a guy who could have moved quickly through the system. I mean, this is a guy who could have been in the Mets rotation in a couple of years. He's a big kid. His father played a defensive line in the NFL. So, wow. He was regarded as, that kind of a horse, like innings eater, like a guy who you could rely on, like, almost like a Garrett Cole type, like, hey, this is the guy we want on the mound with the, when we need a win and when we need a guy to go 7 or 8 innings. Like, this is who he is, and this is what he was projected to be. And now that guy is gone, and I can guarantee you that the Mets won't take him next year. Even if Rocker is around at number 11, I can't imagine the Mets would pick him again.
Well, maybe if he allows himself to be, looked at, maybe the Mets would feel more comfortable, or any team picking him would feel more comfortable. If you're not going to,
I don't think Boris will allow it. It's not his style. Boris wants as little information out there as possible, because in a manner of speaking, that is protecting his client.
Well, Boris also gives out like a giant package of information that that's his way of getting out the message.
Yeah, but he controls that information.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, we're running out of time, brother. Zach Wilson finally has signed with the Jets. Training camp has opened. He signed one day after training camp opened. It seems that there was some contract language that was a stumbling block, and
just like with Sam Darnold, brother. Just like with Sam Darnold a few years ago.
Yeah, then look what happened.
I don't know why the Jets, what their big hang up is with contract language, but it's a little aggravating.
They keep signing quarterbacks that don't stay around. Maybe that's something. I mean, hopefully Zach Wilson is the answer, like Sam Darnold was not the answer. But the other thing I do want to mention, brother, is Wilson already has gotten a jolt, because the guy who he had been talking to since he was drafted was a Jets quarterback coach by the name of Greg Knapp. And Knapp was actually killed in a bicycle accident in California last week, which, I mean, tragic stuff. And Wilson had actually spoken to Knapp the day before the accident. This was actually before he was signed. So, this was a guy he was expecting to come to New York to work with, and was developing a relationship with, and they were talking on the phone every day, and kind of getting to know each other, and throwing ideas around, and then all of a sudden, this guy's gone. So. That by itself is certainly a difficult way to start your career.
and somebody who he was getting close with, and who clearly was going to be a mentor to him and a coach to him, is now gone, and now he has to develop all of that all over again with whoever the new quarterback coach is going to be.
Sure, I mean it's a horrible thing. I mean, good for the Jets. I mean, it just seems like how many quarterbacks have gone through the last couple of years that were big names at the time, or big.
I mean, it was Darnold. It was Darnold, but it's Darnold and
Sanchez
Dino.
too. Sanchez. I mean,
I don't know how many years you're going back here, but I mean, it was Darnold. It was Gino. It was Sanchez. I'm not gonna throw Fitzpatrick in there because first of all, he played pretty well, and secondly, he was certainly not a prospect. I mean, the guy's about 40 now. Yeah. But I mean, hey, all I know is right now, Zach Wilson got a 4-year deal, $35.15 million. He got a full signing bonus within 15 days. Is $22.9 million. How would you like to put a check in a bank for $22.9 million?
How do you cash it? I mean,
you don't. You just give it to your finance guy and say, hey, let's do this. And Zach Wilson.
I put it in my bank account and collect that bad interest.
No, you wouldn't.
Imagine your
finance guy would go nuts.
Imagine you walk into your bank and say, well, here's a check for $22 million.
Well, yeah, but don't forget to take the taxes out, brother. Taxes will eat up a big chunk of that.
Okay, so it's 30%. So
40%.
It depends.
So, but anyway, obviously you're putting more than $10 million in the bank.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he's got money, people. His uncle or somebody in his family is wealthy enough to have his own plane. So. He's gonna come and fly to New York to watch Zach play football this year. Whenever.
Wow, that's pretty good, man.
So I don't think he's got to worry about who's going to handle his money. He's got family who can help him with that. The other issue quickly that the Jets are dealing with, brother, safety Marcus May, who was talking Saturday about he's frustrated that he wasn't able to reach a long-term contract deal. He will make $10.6 million this season. Which is the franchise tag amount for safeties. He was hoping to get a deal done, but they didn't. If the Jets don't get a deal done with May after this season, they could franchise tag him again next season. That would be $12.7 million, which is real good money for a safety. But for whatever reason, guys don't like the franchise tag. I don't know why, but anyway, that's what that is. Excuse me with the coughing, brother. Anyway, the other football news I wanted to point out, Giants.
Hurry up, brother. One minute, brother. 1 minute.
Bro. Yeah, just be quiet. Saquon Barkley was working out at what looked to be full speed at Giants practice the other day. So that's encouraging. We'll look to see what happens with Saquon in the coming couple of weeks.
Okay, that just about does it, brother. You've been listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Coming up next at 10 o'clock. The Good Gold Show with Big Ed Newlands playing all the oldies you don't hear anymore on the radio. My name is Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. This show will be a podcast later on. And thanks to Sean and Kim for keeping us on the air. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care and bye-bye.